Mr. Upvote here with more r/Am I the Bad Guy read-in reactions. Let's go. Am I the bad guy for asking my stepdaughter to move out? This is an ongoing issue going on in my home. I, a 33-year-old female, am currently pregnant with my first child. I live in a 2-bedroom home with my husband and stepdaughter, who is 23, female. Stepdaughter and I get along fine, no big issues, but we are also not super close. Now that the baby is coming, we need more space. Unfortunately, we can't afford a new home. I brought up to my husband asking stepdaughter to move out. My reasoning is that we really need her room for the new baby and she is an adult with a full-time job, so it is time for her to be on her own anyway. My husband agreed and we brought it up to her at dinner one night. We told her we would help her with the first 2 months' rent. I told her it would be fun for her and I could go shopping and I will help her decorate her new apartment. We tried to be as gentle as we could, but she was very quiet. Privately, she told my husband that even though she has a full-time job, she cannot afford to live on her own. My husband told her she did not need to move out, so now we are scrambling trying to find space for the new baby. The other day, I was home alone with stepdaughter and tried to talk to her about it again. I offered to help her find a roommate and she snapped on me. She snapped on me and told me to just leave her alone and locked herself in her room. When my husband got home from work, he was mad at me and told me to leave her alone and not bring it up anymore. Things have been awkward and uncomfortable since, making my pregnancy very stressful. She's 23, old enough to be on her own, she has a job and we are willing to help her. We need space for our baby. I do not see how I am in the wrong here. OP, it's easy to see how you're in the wrong here. You need space for a new baby so she feels like you're tossing her out on her own. You're only 10 years older than your own stepdaughter, so you're closer in age to her than to your husband. I have a feeling she feels like she's being cast away so her dad can start a whole new family. You have to understand that you joined their family. You're not just taking it over and starting a new one without her. You've come into a marriage with an older man who is financially stable and may not have had this kind of situation thrust upon you. It is crazy expensive to live alone these days, even with a roommate. Does she have to move out eventually? Sure, but is it your decision when? Not at all. Her and her father can have a conversation about it without the pressure coming from you. Listeners, what are your thoughts here? Leave a comment below and let's move on to the next one. Am I the bad guy for taking a particular job even though my husband disapproves? I, a 23-year-old female, have been married to my husband, 27-year-old male, for 2 years. When we first got married, we moved to a different city for his job. In tech, he's a software engineer. In our new city, I quickly found an entry-level job in the field I thought I wanted to work in, publishing. However, I hated it. Hated the office politics, long hours with relatively low pay, and found the work monotonous. I stuck it out for 1.5 years to avoid being a job hopper and to see if I could make it work, but then started applying to a variety of other jobs after nothing improved. I had a few interviews but wasn't getting too far in the process until recently, when I interviewed for an executive assistant job. The job seemed to be a great fit at every step. I really clicked with the executive I would be supporting and liked everything about the company, which is stable and growing with no sign of layoffs like a lot of companies are going through right now. The pay is great too, 50% more than my current job, would be going to $75,000 from $50,000, with better benefits, more vacation, more robust insurance with lower cost. The new job would also be strictly 40 hours a week with occasional paid overtime, as opposed to my current publishing job, which often requires 10 or more hour days and doesn't pay overtime. When I discussed it with my husband, he told me flat out that although it's my career, he disagrees strongly with this move. He says that I'm going to get permanently stuck in the secretarial pool and that it's not really a professional job that's appropriate for our life plan, and that he's going to be embarrassed by me and will think less of me. The job is to serve as the assistant to the CEO and owner of a marketing advertising agency, which is also a field I'm very interested in learning more about. I mean, I suppose you could debate the ethics of marketing and advertising, but it's not like it's doing something illegal or for a company or exec with a horrible reputation. There is also definitely a path forward, as the CEO said that those who do well in the assistant role for 1 year or 2 will have opportunities for promotion to account coordination or management roles. I told him I was sorry to disappoint him, but I'm really miserable in my current job and need to make a change, and this is the best offer I have. Plus, I'm going to make more money for fewer hours, so I'm not taking anything away from him or our household. So I accepted it, and now he says that I'm a bad guy and is barely speaking to me. Anyway, Reddit, am I the bad guy for taking a job that my husband finds inappropriate and embarrassing? You're certainly not the bad guy here, OP. Your husband sounds like a controlling and egotistical D-bag. It's too bad you married someone like that. Is this par for the course for him? If he is this controlling over something so important for you, what else is he controlling about? Now, I'm not jumping to divorce him, but I would take a long, hard look at your relationship as a whole. Your husband's job is to support you. Whether you want to be an assistant or custodial worker, that's your choice to make, not his. You deserve someone who takes pride in you for who you are, not embarrassed by you for what you do. And by the way, there isn't even anything wrong with this job. More money, steady, and future career prospects in an area you're interested in? Sounds like he may actually be jealous or threatened by this new opportunity. He mentioned your life plan, but does he mean his life plan? OP, be more assertive with this and tell him it's your life and your choice. If he doesn't like it, then he needs to manage his own emotions, expectations, and adapt or get the F out of your way. Listeners, leave your thoughts in the comments below and let's get on to the next one. Am I the bad guy for kicking my stepson out of the house for smoking weed? I'm in Canada. It is perfectly legal. My stepson Sean is 18 and he's in university. He lives with his dad and I so he can go to school in our city. His mom lives on an acreage about 40 kilometers north of town, so that would be quite the commute. I didn't really want him in my house, but my husband insisted and promised me that Sean would behave. He would clean up after himself and he would not cause me any problems. He isn't a bad kid. He does his chores and keeps to himself mostly. He had some trouble with staying up late and being disruptive when he got here last summer, but we got that sorted out. My husband and I have a 3-year-old daughter. Sean is friendly with her and has babysat her a few times. The problem is, he smokes so much weed. I'm honestly surprised he isn't failing out of school. I personally don't care, except we agreed he would smoke outside or in the garage, and he's been smoking up in his room. 3 problems. 1, my daughter doesn't need to get a contact high. 2, it stinks. And 3, he has the window open so we are paying to heat up the house constantly. F that noise. I spoke with my husband and told him that Sean wasn't following the rules we had agreed to. He had one more chance, then he had to find somewhere else to live. Sean said he was sorry and he promised he would behave. He even showed me that he had bought edibles so he wouldn't get his sister high, stink up the house, or need to open his window. It was fine for 2 weeks, and then he did it again, so I kicked him out. I packed up his stuff and took it all to his mom's place, and I had the lock codes changed. When he got home from school, he lost it. He said that I was being a controlling bitch and that I didn't have any right to tell him what to do in his father's home. I laughed in his face. I told him that the only house his father ever bought is the one his mother lives in. His dad is my husband, but they are both living in my house. I guess he didn't know that, and he started apologizing. I called him an Uber to take him to his mother. He didn't go, and he called my husband instead. My husband made arrangements with his brother for Sean to move there. His mom drove all his belongings back into town, and now he isn't my problem. Unfortunately for Sean, his uncle is completely against cannabis, so he can't have any there, and he is currently sleeping on a hide-a-bed. His dad, uncle, and himself are going to build him a room in the unfinished basement this weekend. My husband is on my side since Sean broke our agreement. His mother is salty about having to come into town, and Sean is begging me to let him come back. Am I the bad guy here? Of course you're not the bad guy here, OP, and I'm pretty sure you know that. You told him what the rules were, and he continued to disrespect them. Even though weed is illegal, he doesn't have a right to do it wherever and whenever he wants, especially when he's living in your house. You gave him an alternative, and he respected that for a little bit, and then he broke the rules again. He knew the consequences, and guess what? There were consequences, so of course you are not the bad guy for enforcing it. What else would you do? Just let him walk all over you and have your house stink of weed and your baby coming into contact with it? I don't think so, and I think your response is totally appropriate. Listeners, what are your thoughts on this one? Please leave your comments below. And that's going to do it for this video. If you've enjoyed these Reddit stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave comments.